I got a question for you.
Yeah.
I've been waiting. I've been holding off on this.
Okay, go ahead. I
Okay.
can't wait.
So I got into a discussion with a bunch of people the other day. They were trying to tell, the topic was how to start your own business. Like they wanted to start businesses in like inner city and help cultivate inner city businesses, right?
Okay.
All for it.
Yep.
And there's these two guys on there that say, oh, the first thing you have to do is file a DBA, because once you have your DBA, you can start getting business credit. And I'm like, that's not how that works.
What is business credit?
And they're like,
Oh,
yeah,
like a line of credit?
yeah, or
Like a bank?
no, so that any loans,
Yeah,
anything you
for
finance,
like for getting something through a bank. Right.
correct,
Yeah.
or credit card,
Credit
any
card
of
or
that
whatever,
stuff,
okay.
it then becomes a business.
Yeah, DBA has nothing to do with that.
Oh, hold on.
Sorry, I'm jumping the gun.
So I kept telling them, and I'm like, just because you file a DBA doesn't mean you get any of the legal rights of a business. Like you don't get to accumulate business credit. You don't get any of the protections. You can't get business insurance. Like filing a DBA is just you doing business under your social, under your name. You're just notifying the state that you're also using another name.
Mm-hmm.
And I was telling them that, in order to get any of the stuff, in order to start getting credit as a business, not as an individual, in order to be able to get any of the insurance or legal, go ahead, open it. Just pop it open.
Well,
There you go.
I don't interrupt.
No, it's okay. I'm going to interrupt people later too.
My
so-
lovely drink.
That's okay. But I'm sitting there and I'm like, guys, like that's not how this stuff works, right? And because there was two of them and one of me, people believed the two people that were like, oh, you can just file a DBA and start doing business and everything is good. And I'm like, no, you need more than that, right?
No.
And they're like, yeah, but it's so expensive to file an LLC.
What?
And I'm like, dude, you can go online and file it for free, or like what, $75?
$125.
There you
Pennsylvania.
go. In Pennsylvania, right? Yeah. I don't know where they are, but like filing a DBA is
so
what?
expensive.
But filing a DBA is what, like $50, $60?
$70.
Right. Okay, so it's twice the price, but it's not like it's 1,000 and 2,000, right? It's $100.
But even if it is $1,000, let's say you got to hire an attorney or whatever, you got to go through trademark search and things like that. It doesn't matter. You know what? It's worth its weight in gold having that security.
But even just filing a sole proprietor LLC, right? So
you're conflating two things, but sure.
Yeah,
single member LLC.
Single member. Yes, yeah. Sorry. But it's like, it drives me nuts when people are putting information like this out there. Mm-hmm. And then you have some poor Joe, right, that goes out and is like, hey, I'm going to start my lawn mowing business.
Yeah.
And because he heard these guys, he files a DBA, right? And he's like, oh, life is good. Now I go buy my first lawnmower and put it on my credit card. And oh, it's business credit, right? And then he goes out and he starts mowing the lawn. And then he runs over the poor owner's cat. And now shit hits the fan, right? Yep. Because he has no legal protection whatsoever. Now the owners are coming after him personally. Like, can you explain to people the difference between like LLC, DBA, S Corp? Like,
yes, I certainly can.
Because I really think, like, I'm hoping someone, the next time they get into this conversation and they really want to know, that they just go back to this episode and go, hey, just listen to the first 3 or 4 minutes of this episode.
It's going to take more than 3 or 4 minutes, but sure, I'm more than happy to.
Do the Cliff Notes version.
Yeah, okay. All right. So, okay, you have to understand, if you're not an LLC or a corporation, a C Corp, then you are a non-protected entity, meaning you're either a sole proprietor, a general partnership, or something like that, right? Those are non-registered, non-protected entities. And what I mean by protected is they don't have limitations on the liability. So give me your phone.
Okay.
All right, I have your phone here, okay?
Yep.
All right, let's see. I'll go right to camera. Okay, on this side of the phone are the non-protected entities, the sole proprietors, general partnerships, what have you. On this side of the phone are the limited liability companies and the C Corps. We'll get to S Corp in a minute, okay? Now, when you're a sole proprietor or a general partner, you personally are responsible for the debts of the business, for the liabilities of the business, the lawsuits of the business, et cetera, which means that if the business has 10 grand in its account, 20 grand, heck, 100 grand in its account, and it gets sued and loses $1 million lawsuit, the $100,000 is coming out of the business account and the other $900,000 is coming from you personally. That's your house, your cars, your bank accounts, your kids' college savings, all that stuff. It's all up for grabs, everything except for your Social Security. It's the only thing that they can't get, right? So all that stuff is up for grabs. Over here on this side, when you have an LLC or a corporation, same scenario. You have $100,000 in the bank account for the business. Business loses $1 million suit, put insurance and stuff aside, right? They can only get the $100,000 that's in the business account. Once the business account and assets are drained, there is nothing else to get. They cannot go after you personally. This is right here is what we call the corporate veil. Okay. This corporate veil protects the LLC and the corporation from the bad actor lawsuits that want to get through that corporate veil. I'm really going this way. They want to go through the corporate veil to you personally. They can't do it. That's the protection. There are ways to do what's called piercing the corporate veil where you can get around it legally. We're not going to go into that, but it's at the end of the day, it's usually if you don't treat the business like a distinct entity from yourself, right? Like commingling of money is an example. If you have an LLC that doesn't have its own bank account or people are writing you personally checks for the work of the LLC, that's commingling of money and that will pierce the veil every day. But as long as you do everything you're supposed to do, if it's a C Corp, separate tax returns, separate bank accounts, separate QuickBooks, everything, they will not be able to get through that corporate veil and get to your personal assets. All right. So that's the purpose of the LLC C Corp structure. All right. Sole proprietor, the reason why people do it is because they're right. It's the easiest thing to do. You know what you have to do to start a sole proprietorship?
Nothing.
You literally just stand up and say, I have a business. I just started a business selling widgets as a sole proprietor. Literally, that's it. I am now a sole proprietor. I go out into the world and I make my money. That's a sole proprietorship. No one has to know. You don't have to register it. No one, you'll pay taxes, of course, but no one has to know who, when, what, where, or why. Okay. General partnership is essentially the same thing, except it's more than one person.
Right.
Okay.
So you and I sell widgets together.
Together. We do it. Bam. Done. We're now a widget business. Okay.
I love it.
An LLC and a corporation have to be filed with the Secretary of State. Okay, at least in Pennsylvania. In others, usually it's the Secretary of State. Sometimes it's business organization, business charity, whatever it is. Okay. So once they're filed, and that filing usually is pretty cheap. The most expensive one I know of is California, of course. I think it's $800. I could be wrong on that. California, I apologize if I'm wrong, but it's somewhere up there. Texas is like $300, but everywhere else is like $70. Pennsylvania, New Jersey, they're $125. Right? They're relatively cheap. And you file the documents. There's a couple things you have to do if you're a corporation that you don't have to do if you're LLC. But at the end of the day, it's a very simple thing to do. And once you've done that, you are now protected. Okay. You're either an LLC or a corporation. And the difference between the two of those is very simple. An LLC has members. Okay. The members own the LLC. The members usually run and work in the LLC. They don't always, but they usually do. And they own the LLC. A corporation is a distinct entity. So the LLC is really just an extension of its members. The corporation is a distinct entity separate from its shareholders. Okay. So for example, you own stock in Apple. I own stock in Apple, right? I have nothing to do with the day-to-day operations of Apple. Right. The most I can do is put a vote in for who I want to be on the board of directors. And then the board of directors appoint management, et cetera, et cetera. That's what a corporation is. Even if you are the owner of the corporation and you start it and you own all the stock, you, as a stockholder, have no say in the day-to-day operations of the corporation. Technically, what you're doing as the sole stockholder is appointing yourself as the director, and then the director does the day-to-day operations. The corporation will have its own separate tax return from the individual shareholders as well. And separate from the director, separate from everybody. Everybody that works for the corporation is a W-2 employee. An LLC, as a member of an LLC, you don't necessarily have to be a W-2 employee.
Right. They can do the pass-through income.
Correct. It's all pass-through income. Exactly. Now, the one catch you mentioned earlier is the S Corp. Okay. The S Corp is nothing more than a tax election. You are choosing to be taxed at the S Corp basis. All right. We're not going to go into what that means right now, but
there's also another, because when I had to file, because we had foreign owners,
yes,
we had to file an S Corp.
Yes.
C Corp wasn't an option.
Right. Well, no, you can, your underlying entity type is never an S Corp. There's no such thing as an S Corp as an entity.
So I just know when we get asked, I have to say we're an S Corp because we have foreign ownership.
That's fine. Yeah. But I'd have to look at your structure, but so you can be a sole proprietor as an S Corp. You can be a general partnership as an S Corp. You can be an LLC or a C Corp. All of those can be taxed as S Corps.
Okay.
Okay. But it is not in itself its own type of entity.
Got it.
All right. So that's the difference between, unregistered entities, registered entities, liability protection, et cetera. I usually, when I first meet a client who's talking about starting a business, it's about a 15 to 20 minute presentation to explain to them all these differences. And obviously I go into much more detail, but so on a podcast, hopefully it makes sense. But
it's just important to me that people understand that filing a DBA does not give you any of the rights or protections that having a legal entity does.
You're right. I missed the part about the DBA. Okay. So a DBA, doing business as, also known as a fictitious name, is nothing more than what you have an underlying entity somewhere, whether that underlying entity is a sole proprietorship, an LLC, or a corporation. That fictitious name or DBA does nothing more than point back to that underlying entity.
And it could be an individual as well.
Correct. Yeah. Well, that would still be a sole proprietorship.
Correct.
Either way, right?
Yeah,
you're a sole proprietor. Well, you're either a sole proprietor or you're not.
Yeah.
So what would happen is if you have a DBA, XYZ company is my DBA and it's me as a sole proprietor, it's still me as a sole proprietor. I'm just operating under the name of XYZ company. It doesn't change, doesn't turn me into an LLC.
Right.
Now, in Pennsylvania, New Jersey, and the states around here, I can't speak for all states, but I do believe it applies to all states. When you apply for a DBA, that does not protect your name at all. Doesn't give you any rights to the name other than a common law trademark. Okay.
Right.
So if you were to start a DBA as a sole proprietor, or it really doesn't matter, just a DBA XYZ company, I can then go to the state and create XYZ company LLC, and I will have superior rights to you.
Right, because you're a legal entity.
Because I'm a legal entity versus a DBA. Yep. And I know in Pennsylvania, it specifically says when you're filing, this does not protect your name, the rights in the name. You must file as an LLC or a corporation.
Or file it as a trademark.
But that still won't, believe it or not, that won't keep somebody else from filing it in Pennsylvania. It just now gives you the right to go after them for trademark infringement.
Right. If they use the name.
If they use the name in the same category.
Right. So for example, I could go file a DBA right now that is, or I could start an LLC called PepsiCo. But if I file a DBA name that's Gummies Widgets and I'm doing business under the Gummies Widgets, the PepsiCo LLC could still stand.
Correct. As long as the PepsiCo LLC is not in the soft drink or any of the other trademark.
Right.
Like I have to imagine PepsiCo does not have a trademark in computer apparatus,
or
for example,
pens.
Right?
Right. Well,
maybe, right? I would imagine let's assume they don't have, and I think it's category 42. I could be wrong about that. No, it's not 42. Maybe it's 9. Anyway, it doesn't matter. Let's say they don't have a trademark in scientific apparatus like computers. Okay. Yes, you could create PepsiCo, the LLC, as long as you're not doing business in any of the things that they're currently trademarked in.
Right.
Right. And you can't use their logo either. Your logos now, that's a copyright issue and it's a whole different story. But
so this is why I always tell people, right? Like your first initial session with a business attorney to have the conversation is normally a free consultation, right? Take advantage of it. Go talk to them. You're going to walk out with information you didn't have when you walked in, and you'll understand the difference between a DBA and an LLC and whether or not you need it, right? Like if you are Donna's makeup, right? And all you do is apply makeup to wedding parties. Are the chances that you need some kind of legal protection there? Yes, but they're nominal, right? But if you're Joe's Tree Service and you're literally cutting down trees on people's properties around their houses, you should probably be well protected, right? Like there's a level of risk. If I'm making, let's do arts and crafts. Let's say I make pottery.
You name any business, and I will tell you where the risk is.
Oh yeah, but like let's say I'm an arts and crafts guy,
Yep.
right? And I make paintings and I sell them at the local flea market.
Okay.
Okay. Do I absolutely need an LLC for
Yes.
that? Well,
No. Seriously, I will tell you why if you want.
So you should, right? But we know most people that are making these
they're not doing
pottery
it.
and they're not doing it, right? And it's because it's a relatively low risk thing to do versus a lot of other stuff.
It's not.
Oh, it kind of.
It's not as high risk as making automobiles or climbing ladders and things like that.
Being on roofs or working on someone's plumbing.
I'm telling you, and I've seen it, right?
Mm-hmm.
You could be the guy who goes in the garage and makes 6 paintings a week and then goes to the local flea market and sells them, and that could still ruin your life if you're not protected.
Yeah, I mean, once again, I think it's a risk thing. And if it's the difference between you not doing anything and doing something, I would still say do something rather than doing nothing. You should do the right thing. You should do the ideal thing. You should do the thing that protects you, but not everyone can, so to speak, right? Like I know people that don't have 2 pennies to rub together.
Sure.
Right? Telling them to go spend $125 to file an LLC and then spend $2,000 a year or $1,000 a year on business insurance and another $500 because now you need a CPA to file your taxes, like whatever it is. Like, I get it. I get there are people that are in that.
They're in that world, sure, yeah.
And that's fine. But they need to understand the risks, right? Like,
so as you said it earlier, they don't have 2 pennies to rub together. Then there's no risk. What are you going to lose? You can't get blood from a stone, right? There's nothing to lose.
Correct.
But if you do have more than 2 pennies to rub together, you have house, car, etc. You better protect yourself.
Yes.
Because all those assets are up for grabs if you don't.
Yeah. And this is part of what comes with talking to an attorney and talking to an insurance guy is like, what is your actual risk? Like, because if you're worth nothing and you have nothing and there's nothing to come after, the risk of someone coming after you is slim to none because there's nothing to get.
Right.
Right. If on the other hand, you do own a house or a car or have a
sizable savings account or something,
whatever it is, then now you have to start evaluating your risk differently.
Correct.
Right?
Yep.
And once again, it's just back to the whole filing a DBA and saying I'm a business is all fine and dandy. You just need to understand that you don't get any of the protections that a business actually gets.
Correct.
So that was kind of, and this was the conversation I was trying to have with them. And they kept trying to convince me otherwise. And I'm like,
and you didn't call me? What a shame. I would have been right down.
I know.
She'd be like, I got my buddies an attorney on speed dial. Hold on.
And I didn't want to plug the podcast. Like, I didn't want to be like, listen, I do a podcast with a business attorney every damn week. Like, trust me, I've heard it all at this. Well, not even all. I've heard a lot of it at this point in time, right? Like, but there's moments to throw your weight around and like throw down the gauntlet and say you're wrong. But like, the more I talked, one of the guys started saying, well, yeah, no, he's technically correct. And I'm like, yes, I am technically correct. I am technically correct that if you don't have an LLC.
You're either correct or you're not. There's no technically.
I know. But you have to remember a lot of times you're having conversations with people that have never been in business at all. Right?
That's true.
I remember when I used to teach for SCORE.
Oh, that's right. You used to do that.
Yeah. And one of the things that I would always ask people about is like, we would go through basic things like, okay, did you create a business plan? Did you talk to a business attorney about your legal structure? Did you, like, we went through all these steps and I'm like, I was amazed that there was always probably more than half the room that hadn't even talked to a business attorney yet, but were already doing some kind of business.
I can tell you why.
And I would always tell them, stop. Like, just go talk to the attorney, see what you need to do before you go any further, especially if you're doing something that's on someone else's property or if you are handing another person something, right? Because even if it's pottery, okay, you sell someone a piece of pottery, they take it home, their child chokes on it.
Yep.
Who are they coming after, right?
Exactly. And I'll tell you, the reason why probably those people don't go to an attorney is because they think it's very expensive. And it can be if you don't do it the right way.
Yeah.
Right. There's lots of attorneys, myself included, out there that will give a free consultation.
Yeah.
I always get free consultations. I love giving free consultations.
A lot of people do, right? Like, they're in the boat of, if I advise you now, when you need it,
you're going to come to me. Exactly.
Yes.
That's exactly. I look at long-term. Everything's a long-term relationship with me. If it's short-term relationship, it's probably not going to work out, to be honest.
Right.
And a lot of attorneys will. And I'm telling you, you sit in my office for a half hour, and there's a lot of other attorneys that do the same thing. I got a good friend, John Benson, the same thing.
Oh yeah.
You will learn more in that first half hour. That is free because it's a free consultation than you ever would researching on the internet.
Yeah.
So you can speak to attorneys. Most of them, I can't say most, but a lot of them have free consultation.
And it's the same thing. Like, if you look around with the people we know, right? Whether it's a contractor, a marketing company, photographer, videographer, most of them will have that initial conversation with you and not charge you for it.
Right.
And they will educate you because most good businesses want you to be an educated consumer, because the best consumer is an educated consumer that knows what they're buying, right? So yeah, I think, I don't know, I think it was timely to have this conversation because we've talked about a bunch of stuff, but this is like one of those basic things, like when we were talking about starting it or scrapping it, like if you don't have legal protections, you should probably scrap it for now and restart it under some kind of legal protection.
You know what we should do, and please, people listening, put it in the comments if you want this. We should do like a live workshop one day, right? Like a live like a live streaming podcast workshop on business entity types and what people should do. Let people put questions in, we can answer them, and that'd be kind of cool.
That would be fun.
And I can go to the board. I love going to the board and drawing things. It's great.
I know. You love the board.
I always go to the board. I used to I used to teach software development. So we always go to the board and draw our functions and everything.
I love my board.
I love doing that. I know, it's great. So the boards that you see behind Gummy right now, I have them all over the office. I have probably about 10 of them around the office.
I have 3 or 4 in mine.
They're great. I love them.
I even went back to the damn cork board.
Did you?
Yeah, because sometimes
school.
I'll hang up paper because I want to save what I'm writing on the paper.
Yeah.
And then we put it aside, and then we either scan it or photograph it.
Right.
So, yeah.
That's kind of cool.
We're really old school with some stuff.
All right. So, let's help some people.
What do you think? Let's get to the actual episode.
All right.
If you found this clip interesting, make sure to go listen to the full podcast. There's lots more content there.